The day before Lunar New Year's Eve, Lucas came downstairs, fully dressed. I was putting up red paper window decorations. He walked over and stood beside me. "I won't be home for the new year," he said. "Will you be okay by yourself?" Before I could even ask why, he added, "She's pregnant. The baby is mine. I'm going to stay with her." My hand trembled, and the red paper fluttered gently to the ground. Why did he have to tell me now? Looking at the silence on his face, I knew our marriage was over. I opened my mouth and said, "Lucas, let's get a divorce." "Amy, haven't I treated you well enough? Why do you want a divorce?" Even the calmest and most rational person would lose control after hearing something like that. I grabbed the ashtray from the coffee table and hurled it at him. "Why? Why? You're with another woman, Lucas, and you still have the nerve to ask me why? Don't you think that's absurd?" Lucas dodged. The ashtray shattered on the floor, and a red mark instantly formed on his forehead. Still not satisfied, I threw every book and magazine on the table at him. Lucas didn't even flinch. He stood straight and still, like a stone pillar. Finally, I smashed my favorite vase. I had picked the flowers in it just this morning from the garden. Lucas had always been cold. Before we got married, his room was decorated entirely in cool tones, lifeless and sterile. Every week, I would bring home flowers from the shop to warm up the space, to make it feel like someone actually lived there. After we got married, I hired a designer and carefully oversaw the redecoration of the entire villa. Every object, large or small, was chosen and arranged by me. It used to be the warmest home, a home that belonged to the two of us. And now, it was a wreck, destroyed by my own hands. Lucas stared at me quietly, as if I were crazy. His gaze was strange. Worn out from the chaos, I crouched down, holding my face, sobbing uncontrollably. Lucas came over and stood in front of me. After a long while, he picked me up from the floor, tidied the sofa, and gently sat me down. He knelt in front of me, a trace of pain seeming to flicker in his eyes. He used the pad of his finger to wipe the tears from the corner of my eyes. "Amy, don't be like this. It hurts me to see you like this." In his eyes I saw myself, teary, pathetic, a mess. I gathered myself a little. How had it come to this? I wiped the tears off my cheeks, calmed my breathing, and asked, "Do you remember what you promised me? You said we'd stay together forever, never leave each other, grow old together. But Lucas, we've only been married for 3 years, and you've already betrayed me. Betrayed our marriage. How long have you two been seeing each other?" Lucas turned away in a panic, unable to meet my eyes. "Almost a year." So they'd known each other that long. I dug my nails into my palm and gave a bitter laugh. "Why tell me now? Why not just keep hiding it?" Lucas sat down beside me in silence. He took out his lighter and lit a cigarette. The smoke blurred the sharp lines of his face. "I didn't want to keep lying to you?" "Didn't want to lie to me?" What a grand and hypocritical thing to say. If he didn't love me anymore, he could have told me openly. We could have divorced. I'm not someone who begs or clings, but instead he chose to cheat while still married. She's in her early 20s, young, cute, not like you. She doesn't refuse the gifts I give her or the money. She's clingy, loves to act spoiled, he said, his eyes glinting briefly. But when he looked back at me, the light was gone. "But Amy, you're not like that. You always feel too distant. I was your wife, the person closest to you. But Lucas, this is just how I am, dull and emotionally reserved. The environment I grew up in, the distant relationships within my family, they shaped me into this kind of person. I don't know how to act sweet. I don't like troubling others. I even keep things calculated and clear-cut with the people dearest to me. But I've been trying to change. I've been learning to rely on you. Yet the day I needed you most, when I was lying in the hospital after the car accident and called you, where were you? On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, there were sweet and sour ribs. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, there were scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Honestly, I was tired of it. I was sick of how bland and repetitive life had become. I didn't understand why, among the many dishes on the table, only those 2, my favorites, were the ones you insisted on repeating. The rest were all your favorites. Why were you so fixated on just those 2? "Amy, you're like a bowl of plain porridge," you said once. "Tasteless but a shame to throw away." But she's different. She's like candy. I can't help but indulge in her. Lucas's lips curved into a soft smile. It held indulgence, sweetness. The girl was bold. She invited me to an amusement park, and the first thing she wanted to do was go into the haunted house. She stood with her hands on her hips and said she wasn't scared, but the moment we stepped inside, she was so frightened she jumped into my arms, begging me to hold her. Her heart was pounding so fast that day. Thump, thump, thump. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her cheeks flushed, and she kissed me, boldly. I should have pushed her away, but I didn't. Stop, I said, my voice cracking. The pain in my chest was beyond numbing. I was falling apart. Lucas, I'm begging you, please stop talking. The living room fell into a deathly silence. Lucas's phone rang. He took it out, glanced at me, and answered it right in front of me without hesitation. A sweet, girlish voice came through the receiver. I'm hungry. When are you coming back? Hungry. As Lucas glanced my way, I immediately got up and started rummaging through drawers and shelves. The baby and I are both hungry, the girl continued. Come feed us. I was freezing. My whole body felt cold. I pressed hard against my forehead. What was I looking for again? My phone. Right, my phone. What if there was something urgent from work that I missed? What if I missed an important call? Be good, baby. I'll be there soon, Lucas said gently. Your hubby loves you. Mwah. I did everything I could to shut out the sound. How I wished I were deaf. But I wasn't. Lucas's light-hearted voice poured into my ears like a tide. Only when I dug my nails so deep into my palms that they bled did I finally calm down. At some point, Lucas had ended the call. He walked over and stood behind me. She's getting impatient. I should go, he said. I'll explain everything to my parents. If you don't want to go to the family house tomorrow, you can just stay here. He paused. Do you want me to ask the housekeeper to come back and spend New Year's with you? That might be better since tomorrow is New Year's Eve. It's a day to be with family. Lucas kept talking like he was thinking aloud. So he did know tomorrow was New Year's Eve. He did know it was a time to be with family. Then what was I to him now? A stranger who didn't matter? I picked up the kettle and poured myself a glass of hot water. The warmth slid down my throat, chasing away half the cold inside me. Lucas, let's get a divorce. At the entrance, he paused while putting on his shoes. I promise to treat you well for the rest of your life. Amy, if you're willing, you can always be Mrs. Reed. We can keep things the way they were. And what about her? I asked. I'll buy another villa and settle her elsewhere. I won't let her bother you. Then he left. The living room was a complete mess. And I was the only one left. Before going, Lucas had come over and wiped the tears from my face. With the same mouth that had kissed me thousands of times, he now spoke words that broke me. Amy, just be good. Don't make a fuss. She won't fight you for anything. I walked up the stairs numb. Back to our bedroom. I looked at our wedding photo. The girl in the picture was smiling so brightly, her face full of happiness. I turned and walked into the bathroom to wash my face. The woman in the mirror looked terrible. Red, swollen eyes and cheeks streaked with tears. I slowly raised my hand and whispered to my reflection, Amy, you're not supposed to be like this. Cold water splashed over my face. I told myself not to be sad, but how could I not be? After all these years of love and marriage, how could I just not feel anything? I collapsed onto the bed, wishing with all my heart that everything just now had been a dream. But when I woke up, the memory of yesterday still clung to me, refusing to fade. He told me it was real. My phone vibrated. It was a call from Lucas's mother. I didn't answer. I just stared at my computer screen. A few minutes later, the phone rang again. I hesitated for a moment, then finally pressed to answer. Amy, it's New Year's today. You and Lucas remember to come back early, okay? I held the phone in my hand, unsure of how to respond. Amy, didn't Lucas tell you anything? What's going on? Did you two have a fight? That rascal hasn't even answered my calls. It's nothing, I said. It's fine. All right then. Just make sure Lucas gets back early. Some things are better said face to face than over the phone. Before heading to the Reed family estate, I needed to stop by a coffee shop. The streets that were usually lively were now unusually quiet for the holiday. I searched for several shops. Every single one was closed. The bitter wind whipped against me, and I pulled my coat tighter. Just when I thought I wouldn't be able to print anything today, I saw one shop with its lights still on. Maybe my luck wasn't completely hopeless. The shop owner asked me what I needed to print and if I needed any help. I gave a polite smile and said, "No, thank you." He hesitated for a second, probably wondering what kind of person comes out on New Year's Day to print divorce papers. Then he quickly bound the document and handed it to me with a Happy New Year. The moment I reached out to pay, I froze. He was the first person to say Happy New Year to me today. Not even my own family. Not even Lucas. My eyes suddenly stung with tears. I said Happy New Year and stepped out of the store. Lifting my head, I exhaled into the cold air, slipped the document into my bag, and called Lucas. "Are you going back to the family estate?" "He's in the shower," a woman's voice answered. "It's not convenient for him to take the call. Can I help you with something, Miss Wynne?" It wasn't Lucas who answered. It was her, his little mistress. Her tone was full of smug provocation. "Please tell Lucas's mother," I said calmly, "that he should go home." When I arrived at the Reed family estate, Mrs. Reed was in the kitchen preparing ingredients. I walked in carrying some things. "You came back alone?" she asked. "Where's Lucas, that rascal?" I didn't know how to answer. "He's busy. He'll be here later." "Busy? It's New Year's and he's still working?" she grumbled. "I told that boy to come early. I want to see what exactly he's so busy with." Mr. Reed picked up his phone and started calling Lucas. I didn't stop him. I didn't even care. I turned and walked into the kitchen to help out. They had always been kind to me, and today was the New Year. There was no need to make things unpleasant for everyone. Whatever was between me and Lucas, we could deal with it another day. We kept busy all afternoon, waiting. But Lucas didn't come. It was almost dark by the time we finally sat down for dinner. Just as we were about to eat, Lucas arrived. But he didn't come alone. "Mom, Dad, I'm back," he said, carrying a bag of gifts in one hand. In his other hand, Lucas was holding hers, Cindy's. He probably assumed I had said something to his parents. Outside the window, fireworks boomed and blossomed in the night sky, as if they were celebrating that Lucas and Cindy were finally together. The fireworks faded. Mr. and Mrs. Reed exchanged glances. They could clearly tell something was off. "Do you even know what time it is?" Mrs. Reed said coldly. "You finally decide to show up?" Her eyes swept over Cindy, standing beside Lucas. "On such an important day, why did you bring an outsider to our home?" Cindy seemed startled and instinctively leaned closer to Lucas. He frowned and looked at me. Maybe he didn't want me here at all. A few seconds later, he suddenly smiled and lifted their interlocked hands. "Mom, Dad, she's not an outsider. Her name is Cindy Ye. We're together now." The moment those words left his mouth, the room erupted, except for me, sitting there awkwardly and silently. Mr. Reed slammed his teacup down on the table. "You little punk. Your wife is sitting right here, and you dare spout nonsense like that." Lucas lowered his eyes, hesitated, then said, "Everyone has moments when they're young and impulsive. Who says a person can only love one person in a lifetime?" He gazed at Cindy with a deep tenderness. "Cindy and I love each other. It's real. This isn't some joke." That line sounded so familiar. Years ago, when Lucas's parents agreed to us dating, but objected to us getting married, they said marriage wasn't just about two people. It was about two families. The Reed family was a prestigious name in Shen City. They wanted Lucas to marry a woman from a family of equal standing, someone who could help his career thrive. But I came from a broken home, abandoned by my parents. I had no one, nothing but myself. Lucas had looked at his parents then and said, "Mom, Dad, I truly love Amy. Amy, don't even think about running away. You don't need to do anything. Just let me take care of everything. Just, please don't pull away from me, okay?" Back then, his eyes were full of me. He was so sincere, so passionate, so good to me. I couldn't bear to let him face everything alone. I didn't want to be a burden to him. So I worked harder than ever. I wanted to prove to his parents that even if I didn't come from a good family, I could still support Lucas with my own abilities. And eventually, I succeeded. But now, Lucas, you've made me lose everything. Mr. Reed's hands trembled as he pointed a shaking finger at his son. "You ungrateful brat, are you trying to kill me with anger?" Then he raised his hand and slapped Lucas hard across the left side of his face. Blood formed at the corner of Lucas's mouth, and Mrs. Reed's expression turned to heartbreak. She quickly held her husband back and said coldly to Lucas, "Lucas, what are you standing there for? Kneel and apologize to your father." Cindy immediately stepped in front of him. "Please don't be mad at Lucas. Uncle, Auntie, This is all my fault. Mrs. Reed snapped. And who gave you the right to speak in our family matters? She looked Cindy up and down and said sharply, "You're young, and you look like a girl from a decent family. Do you even know what decency and shame mean? You could have done anything with your life. Why choose something so disgraceful?" Tears welled up in Cindy's eyes and her lips trembled as she looked down, saying nothing. She looked like she had suffered some enormous injustice. Lucas stepped forward, ready to argue, but Cindy quickly pulled him back and shook her head. "I'm okay. Don't fight with your mom because of me." Lucas stroked her hair gently, comfortingly, and helped her sit down. "Mom, Dad, haven't you always wanted a grandchild?" "What do you mean by that?" Mr. Reed asked sharply. "Cindy's pregnant. The baby is mine." In that instant, the living room fell into a dead silence. Every pair of eyes turned to me. I was still waiting for someone to say something when it was Cindy who finally broke the silence. "I know I was wrong," she said gently. "I don't expect you to forgive me." She placed a hand on her belly and looked straight at me. "I never wanted to take anything from you. I never meant to steal your place as Mrs. Reed. I just love Lucas too much. I only want to give birth safely to the child we're having." She looked at me with watery eyes. "I know Miss Wynne can't have children anymore. If you're willing, after the baby is born, I can let you raise him. You'll be his real mother." Such kind, understanding words, so considerate on the surface, yet every syllable struck my head like beads from an abacus slamming down. "If Miss Wynne doesn't want to see me, that's okay," she continued softly. "I can leave. I don't want to affect your relationship with Lucas, and I especially don't want to cause problems between him and Mr. and Mrs. Reed because of me." Without thinking, my hand went to my belly. There used to be a child there, too. If it hadn't been for that accident, our baby would have already been a few months old by now. A sudden crash took that baby away from me. It also damaged my body, left me unable to conceive ever again. Lucas had once told me he didn't really want kids, that he wanted to spend his life with just the two of us. I always knew he was lying. He loved children. And now, he finally got what he wanted. Mrs. Reed sighed, her tone softer than before. "No matter what, the baby she's carrying is still a child of the Reed family. Amy, look, how about we let her have the baby first? If you don't want to raise him, your father and I will." Mr. Reed added, "Amy, I know what Lucas did was wrong, but he's our only son. We can't let the Reed family name end with him." Lucas looked conflicted. "If you don't want this, we can get divorced," he said. At that moment, I felt like a lamp in a dark room that had never been switched on. All their eyes were on me, waiting for me to shine, waiting for me to say something. It was clear, this New Year's Eve dinner wasn't going to happen. I stood up calmly from my seat, untied my apron and said, "Whatever you all decide." Lucas's pupils visibly trembled. "You'll agree?" Mr. and Mrs. Reed praised me for being understanding, for being a good wife. I didn't respond. I turned, took the divorce papers from my bag, and handed them to Lucas. "We'll get divorced. You can marry her." Lucas didn't take the papers. He just stared at me with deep, unreadable eyes, so many emotions behind them. "Have you really thought this through?" he asked. "I've already signed," I said. "I hope you'll sign soon too, so we can get it over with." I simply placed the papers on the table. I didn't bother to look at anyone's expressions. I picked up my bag and coat and walked out. What a festive New Year's Eve. The city was lit up with fireworks, and in Shen City, the first snowfall of the season had begun. I reached out and caught a snowflake in my palm. The cold crept into my bones, and I shivered uncontrollably. The joy belonged to them. The loneliness and chill belonged to me. "Amy." It was Lucas. He'd followed me outside. I steadied my emotions, then turned around. "Give me a little time. I'll move out soon." He stood tall and motionless 5 steps away from me. The soft glow from the street lamp cast warm light across his angular face. It was a long time before he finally choked out, "I'm sorry." "But what use is sorry now? I broke my promise," he said. "I let you down. I couldn't give you the love you deserved or the lifetime I swore I'd give you. I was a coward, a bastard. I'll sign the divorce papers." "Good," I replied and was just about to turn when he called out again. "Amy, what do you want in return? A car, a house, money? Whatever you ask for, if it's within my power, I'll give it to you. I want to make it up to you." I looked up at the night sky, watching snowflakes drift and scatter through the dark. I swallowed down the bitterness rising in my chest. I want the biggest Harborview villa in the city center, I said. Can you give me that? I want 50% of the shares in your company. Can you give me that? I want $100 million in assets. Can you give me that? Lucas stared at me. If you ask, I'll give you everything. I let out a cold laugh. So, in your eyes, all the pain you've caused me, can it really be fixed with money? He replied quietly, money is all I have left to give you. What if I want you to leave with nothing? Not a cent. The air around us seemed to freeze. Lucas stood tall, his jaw tightening. Amy, he said after a pause, I'm sorry, I can agree to everything else but not that. My parents care a lot about reputation. If I walk away with nothing, it will damage the Reed family's image. I can't do that. Please forgive me. The snow was falling harder. Lucas silently pressed the umbrella into my hands, then turned and walked out of my sight. When I woke up the next morning, I started packing. Downstairs I heard the sound of the front door opening. Lucas had come home. A few minutes later, he knocked on the bedroom door. I brought you breakfast, he said. Eat something before you finish packing. I was hungry, so I didn't refuse. On the dining table, there were steamed dumplings, millet porridge, and soy milk, my favorites. Lucas sat across from me, hesitating. You don't have to move out. You can keep this house if you want. I took a sip of the porridge. No, there are too many memories here. Some good, some bad. I don't want to turn this place into a prison that traps me. People say when you leave a place of heartbreak, time will heal you, I added. Lucas frowned. Take care of yourself from now on. Don't eat instant noodles all the time. It's not healthy. I got back too late last night, he continued. It was the holiday, no restaurants were open, and I was too tired to cook, so I had to settle for instant noodles. He must have seen the empty packaging in the trash. But we were about to get divorced. Why was he still concerned about me? I picked up my chopsticks, dipped a dumpling in vinegar, and took a bite. It still tasted exactly how I liked it. So why did it taste so sour in my mouth? Luckily, the apartment I bought years ago, though small, would be enough for me to live in. I wouldn't be left out on the streets. Back then, I hadn't even met Lucas. Everyone said to buy a car before a house, but for me, a car was just a way to get around, optional. A house, though, was my shelter from the storm. Just as I finished packing, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Amy, can you come see me one last time? I stood by the window for a long time, weighing the decision. In the end, I chose to go. Across from me in the restaurant sat a woman dressed with elegance and professionalism, sharp, poised. She was my biological mother. She flipped through the menu. Want to eat something? I didn't speak. She wasn't upset. How about braised fish and sweet and sour pork? She asked. I remember you used to love those when you were little. I interrupted coldly. You asked me here just to have a meal? Chen Wanyi, my mother, closed the menu and said calmly, How have you been lately? Has Lucas treated you well? I shot back, and you, how have you been all these years? I've been fine. The meal was tasteless. At one point, Chen Wanyi suddenly placed a bank card on the table in front of me. The pin is your birthday, she said. I know you resent me. I know you hate me, but this is the least I can do as a mother after all these years. I clenched my hands tightly and said each word clearly. I don't need it. You ignored me all these years. What's this supposed to be now? Late arriving concern? Some version of maternal love you just decided to hand over now? They say bungee jumping gives you a chance to be reborn. So I went. I used to be terrified of heights. I couldn't even stand near the base without hearing the screams from above. But now I wanted to experience it, just once, to see if rebirth was real. The wind at the top of the platform was fierce, but the view was breathtaking. Before the staff could even finish the countdown, I closed my eyes and jumped. The wind howled past my ears as my body dropped rapidly, like I was falling into an endless abyss. After a brief moment of weightlessness came the overwhelming sensation of being pulled back to life. As my body bounced upward to its highest point, only to plummet again, I felt like I was about to die. I screamed like the others did, letting my emotions explode with every decibel. When the bungee jump ended, I didn't feel reborn. People always hope for a moment of enlightenment, that one life-changing experience that turns it all around. But the truth is, traveling, bungee jumping, those things only give you fleeting moments of freedom and release. Without enduring pain, without struggling in the mud or crying in the dark, how could anyone possibly gain clarity so easily? Everyone hopes for a smooth life, but no one really gets one. One evening, just as I got home, I received a call from the hospital. "Miss Wynne, your mother is in critical condition. We hope you can come to the hospital as soon as possible." My phone slipped from my hand and slammed onto the floor. I stumbled through the hallways until I finally found her room. Chen Wanyi lay on the bed, her face pale, an oxygen mask over her nose and mouth. I stood frozen at the doorway. I almost didn't recognize her. Just a few days ago, she'd looked completely fine. "Amy, why are you here?" she rasped, her tone suddenly sharp. "Get out. I don't want to see you. I don't need your pity." I walked over and sat down. If the hospital hadn't called, do you think I would have come? I had blamed her, hated her, wondered for years why she had abandoned me. But I had never once wished her dead. In that moment, I realized I didn't hate her anymore. That thorn in my heart had long since dissolved. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I never wanted to give you up, Amy. Your father refused to let me have you. I fought him, screamed at him, but it was useless. When I calmed down, I realized maybe he was right. You would have suffered with me. I'd just lost my job. I had no way to support you, no time to take care of you. Your father was different. He had a stable income. I thought you'd be better off with him. So I compromised. I sent money every month for your care. I went back to look for you, but he wouldn't let me see you. Then he remarried. I wanted to take you away. But when I finally saw you again, you told me you hated me, that you never wanted to see me again." Her voice trembled. "All these years, I only dared to watch you from the shadows. I thought it was you who didn't want me. If I could do it all over again, I'd take you with me, no matter what." Tears of regret spilled from the corners of her eyes. The monitor beside her let out a sharp, piercing tone. Tears welled in my eyes, and I smiled through them. "I haven't hated you in a long time, Mom." But she couldn't hear me. She would never hear me again. I collapsed onto her bedside like a child, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. My phone rang over and over. It was Lucas. I didn't answer. There was nothing left for us to say. That same day, I saw him at the hospital. Not just him. His parents were there too. So was Cindy. They had all come together for her prenatal checkup, fussing over her like a treasure, surrounding her with their care. They treated her like she was carrying something sacred, terrified that anything might harm her. Not like me, when I was in a car accident, when I lost my baby and had to go into emergency surgery. No one had been there. I'd signed all the forms myself, gritting my teeth through the pain. And Lucas? Where had he been? I didn't know. I couldn't even reach him by phone. He didn't show up until the next morning. He knelt beside my hospital bed, slapping himself, crying that he shouldn't have drunk so much, that he shouldn't have disappeared on such an important night. Maybe he'd been with Cindy that night, messing around. I'll never know. My phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. Lucas's voice came through, low and slurred. He was drunk. "Amy, where are you? Why haven't you come home? I'm drunk." "I want to eat your sweet rice wine dumplings," Lucas slurred. "Amy, will you make them for me?" There was a long pause. "Amy, why aren't you answering me?" I looked out at the city lights through my window, tiny specks of warm yellow against the cold night. "You can ask Cindy to make them for you, or the housekeeper," I said. "Don't call me again." "I don't want them. I want yours, Amy," he murmured. "Lucas," I interrupted coldly, "we're finalizing the divorce tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Civil Affairs office. Don't forget." On the other end, I thought I heard the sound of something shattering, maybe a bottle. But it didn't matter anymore. It had nothing to do with me. The next morning, I woke up early. "I'll come pick you up," Lucas said over the phone before I could refuse. Then he hung up. He showed up quickly. Just like he used to, he opened the car door for me, shielding the top frame with his hand so I wouldn't bump my head. But things weren't the same anymore. We weren't close. We didn't speak. We didn't share everything like before. The scenery outside the window passed by in silence. At the Civil Affairs office, there weren't many people getting divorced that day. But we still had to wait a while. When the final stamp came down on the documents, Lucas and I were no longer husband and wife. As we walked out, I saw a couple holding hands, smiling as they went in to register their marriage. For a brief moment, I felt dazed. Lucas and I had once stepped into that building full of hope and love. But in the end, our marriage had failed. And now we had returned, not to begin, but to end. We descended the long steps. The sky was bright and blue, and strangely I felt a bit lighter. "Let me give you a ride," he offered. I smiled. "No need." And this time, I really meant it. Not far away, Cindy waddled toward us, her belly noticeably bigger. She clung to Lucas's arm, claiming him. She didn't need to do that. I didn't love him anymore. "What took you so long?" she asked sweetly. "Didn't we agree that after you and Miss Wynne got your divorce certificate, we'd go get our marriage one? Did you forget?" Lucas rubbed his temples. I know. I didn't have time for their romantic display." I turned to leave. "Miss Wynne, do you still have something to say?" Cindy asked politely, one hand on her belly and a smile on her face. "When Lucas and I get married, I hope you'll come to our wedding. After all, we're mutual friends now." "I'm busy," I replied flatly. "Not everyone has as much free time as you do." Before my mother passed, she said something to me. "If one day your marriage doesn't bring you happiness, don't settle. Don't compromise. I brought you into this world and gave you an education, not so you could become someone's wife or someone's mother, but so you could live as your best self and achieve your own worth. If marriage fails, don't fall apart. Never plan your life around relying on a man." With the last of her strength, she pressed that bank card into my hand again. "I only hope my Amy will live a happy life," she said. After I moved to London for work, about half a year passed before Lucas's mother found me. She begged me to return and see Lucas. "Auntie, Lucas and I have no ties anymore. I have no obligation to visit him." The once elegant socialite looked older now, much older. Her face had lost the vitality it once held. Tears filled her eyes. "Amy, I know what happened back then was Lucas's fault, and it was our fault too. Please, just for the sake of what you two once had, will you go see him? I'm begging you." She dropped to her knees. I reached out to lift her up, but she wouldn't budge. "You don't know Cindy. She never loved Lucas. She only wanted our family's money," she said. "After giving birth, Cindy took the 10 million we gave her and ran off with someone else. Lucas, he doesn't have much time left. He thinks of you every day, Amy. Please, I'm begging you to go see him." I couldn't refuse anymore. Mrs. Reed took 2 days off and returned to the country with me. The smell of antiseptic in the hospital room was overwhelming. Lucas lay in bed, deathly pale. When he saw me, he smiled faintly. "Amy, it's so good to see you again." "I thought you'd never want to see me again," Lucas said. Seeing him again, I felt nothing. No waves, no pain, nothing like the heartbreak I once endured. Even though I didn't say a word, he still talked as if we were having a conversation. "I know I look terrible right now," he murmured. "I brought this all on myself. You must be laughing at me inside, Amy. Look at what I've become." I couldn't bear to listen anymore. "Lucas, who are you putting on this act for? If you're sick, then get treated properly. Stop making your parents suffer because of your self-pity." His eyes reddened. "It's no use," he whispered. "There's no cure." I'd heard from Mr. and Mrs. Reed that Lucas never once looked at the child after he was born. When the nanny tried to bring the baby to him, he barked coldly. "Who told you to bring him here? Get out." After that, no one dared mention the child in front of him again. But I'd seen the baby, chubby and fair-skinned, adorable. He always reminded me of the child I'd lost. If only my baby had survived. Lucas sat in his wheelchair, his lips colorless. If that hadn't happened, do you think we'd be happy now? "No," I said silently to myself. "Once someone allows themselves to have thoughts that dark and shameful, it's only a matter of time before they fall deeper. The first time leads to a second, and then countless more, just like a man who picks up smoking. Even if it wasn't Cindy, there would have been someone else." Rain slid slowly down the hospital window. Lucas lifted his gaze toward me. "I never actually loved Cindy." "It doesn't matter anymore," I replied. He couldn't control the restlessness in his heart or the urges of his body. So what was the point of explaining anything now? He turned his head, staring out the window. "Amy, do you hate me? Are you disappointed in me?" I shook my head. He pressed, "Do you hate me?" "I don't hate you anymore," I said calmly, "because hate only comes from love, and I no longer loved him, so how could I possibly hate him? If there's nothing else, I said, standing, I'm leaving. He didn't look back. In a hoarse voice, he said, okay. I had just taken a few steps when I heard the quiet sound of sobbing behind me, but I didn't stop. I wouldn't. Not now, not ever again. If Mrs. Reed hadn't begged me so humbly, I wouldn't have come to see him at all. The day I returned to London, it rained heavily. Lucas was at the airport, being wheeled in by an assistant. I didn't know how long he had waited. I stepped out of the car and closed my umbrella. His lips were pale. His voice was weak. Amy, safe travels. I nodded and walked toward the terminal. I didn't say goodbye, because from that day forward, we would never meet again. Not long after, Lucas passed away due to his illness. I didn't return to the country. I didn't plan to attend his funeral. The past was the past. I wouldn't look back anymore. I had to move forward. Side story, the day I was diagnosed with cancer, it felt like the sky collapsed. I couldn't accept it. I didn't know how to tell Amy, so I chose to run. I went to a bar and drank myself into oblivion. That night, at the bar, I saw Cindy being harassed. I stepped in and helped her. Drunk and dazed, I mistook her for Amy, and I slept with her. I didn't know Amy had called me so many times that night. I didn't know she had been in a car accident. By the time I made it to the hospital, it was already the next morning. I dropped to my knees beside her bed, full of guilt and remorse. Amy was furious. It took me a long time to calm her down, to make her forgive me. I went for another checkup. I didn't believe someone as young as me could have cancer. I thought the doctors must have made a mistake. But the results crushed me all over again. And during that time, I kept in touch with Cindy from time to time. Through our conversations, I learned that her father had a gambling addiction. She was forced to work in a bar to pay off his debts. I pitied her for what she'd been through. I paid off those debts for her and quietly accepted her presence in my life. When I was with her, I could unleash all my frustration without holding back. To be precise, ever since I was diagnosed with cancer, I had been suppressing my emotions. I desperately needed an outlet, otherwise I was going to lose my mind. But I couldn't lose control in front of Amy. I cheated on her behind her back, and yet I was terrified of her finding out. I kept thinking, if only I hadn't gotten cancer. The better Amy treated me, the guiltier I felt. I couldn't stop feeling like I had failed her. Then one day, Cindy suddenly told me she was pregnant. That was when I began to confess everything to Amy. I even tried to blame part of it on her. When I saw her cry, it stung deeply. Amy, let's get a divorce, she said. I should have been relieved. She deserved someone better than me. I didn't deserve to hold her back. But I didn't feel happy at all. I wanted her to leave, but I also didn't want her to go. I was selfish. I wanted to keep her beside me. So I said something completely absurd. I promised to treat you well for the rest of my life. Amy, if you're willing, you can always be Mrs. Reed. We can go back to how we were. And what about her? She asked. I'll buy a separate villa for her. She'll live there, far away. She won't disturb you. Amy, furious, slapped me across the face. Get out, Lucas, get out of my life. The day I decided to be with Cindy, I thought a lot. I thought divorcing Amy was the right thing to do. I brought Cindy home with me, determined to stay with her no matter the cost. Amy, calm and composed, handed me the signed divorce papers and left. The next morning when I got back, I saw her packing. I rushed forward and hugged her from behind. Don't leave me, I begged. But by then, I wasn't just unworthy, I didn't even have the right to ask. My clenched fists slowly relaxed. I brought you breakfast, I said. Eat something before you finish packing. At the dining table, I offered her the house. She said, no, I don't want it. I knew she didn't want to see me anymore, didn't want anything that reminded her of us. After the new year, I came home to find the house being cleaned by the staff. Out of habit, I asked, where's the lady of the house? We haven't seen her since we got back, one of them said. I knew then Amy was gone. My hands trembled as I opened the bedroom door upstairs. She wasn't there. All her things were gone. That night, I stood on the balcony smoking over and over again. I kept opening her contact in my phone, typing messages, then deleting them. Are you asleep? Where are you living now? Type. Delete. Again and again. Not a single message was sent. I closed the app, lit another cigarette, then another. During the day, I pretended nothing had happened and still went to accompany Cindy. After all, the baby in her belly was mine, a Reed. My parents only had me, and they had always wanted a grandson. Now that Cindy had given birth, they were thrilled. But ever since finding out I had cancer, Cindy had stopped pretending to be gentle. She dropped the act, became aggressive, sharp-tongued. "I used to feel lucky to have met you," she said. "To be carrying your baby, to marry into a rich family. But who would have thought, you're dying, and I'm still so young. I don't want to be a widow. Why does Amy get half your assets just because you divorced her? I gave birth to your son and got nothing. Not even a wedding." "This is what I owe her," I said. Cindy's eyes burned with resentment. She shouted hysterically, "What about me then? Admit it, Lucas, you never loved anyone but Amy." My voice was hoarse, my tone quiet. "You're not even worth a strand of Amy's hair. I only married you because of the child. I never loved you." Cindy broke down, screaming and sobbing. He swept everything off the nightstand, crashing it all to the floor, shattering the glass of water I was holding in the process. "Lucas, you hypocrite," Cindy screamed. "Your illness, it's karma. You're finally getting what you deserve." I closed my eyes. I didn't want to look at this mad woman in front of me anymore. If Amy were here, she would never act like this. Amy would cry. She would feel sorry for me. She would take care of me gently, quietly, lovingly. The assistant entered the room. I forced myself upright and motioned to him to hand something to Cindy. "There's 10 million in this card," I said. "You can leave now." Cindy didn't want to give in, but in the end, she took the card. Everyone thought Cindy had taken the money and run off with someone else. No one knew that I'd changed her name, her identity, and had her committed to a psychiatric hospital. Since she'd come into my life, I'd given her jewelry, villas. I'd even paid off her father's gambling debts. And still, it wasn't enough. She didn't know how to stay in line. She dared to open her mouth and demand 200 million from me. That was when I snapped. She deserved no better than me. Madness was fitting. At least after I died, she wouldn't cause trouble for my parents. And that child, he didn't need a mother like her anyway. The Reed family would give him everything he needed. But this pain, this disease, was eating me alive. Every day I lived was worse than death. Still, heaven hadn't been entirely cruel. At the end of my life, I got to see Amy again. She was still so beautiful, just like the first time I saw her at that banquet. But this time, she had really let go. She no longer loved me. I had once poured everything into chasing her, into winning her heart. Then I spent everything I had to marry her, to make her my wife, Mrs. Reed. We could have separated with dignity. But I had to lose my mind. I had to cheat. I had to destroy her with the most humiliating betrayal. "Lucas Reed, it was you. You're the one who ruined it all with your own hands. You have no one to blame but yourself. Everything now, it's all your punishment." And yet I smiled calmly. Maybe this was for the best. Letting go, maybe, was the most peaceful ending. My Amy was always meant for a better life.